I'm exploring the beautiful town of La Serena in Chile, and I'm very excited. I mean, this is a cool experience. Never been to South America before. And if you go travel, you want to have a lens that's versatile but compact, good in low light, but still able to shoot lots of different kinds of photography. So of course, you want something like this. This is the Panasonic 24-60 f2.8, a professional lens, but much smaller, more compact. It's also incredibly affordable. I'm Chris Nichols. This is Petapixel. Is this a good travel option? So we've stumbled upon this wonderful street market here, Sunday Street Market in the center of La Serena. And if you are looking for a used Zenit camera, they've got you covered. This marketplace is the place to be. That seems to be all that we're finding there in the antique section. But if you're looking for anything else, I would say Cage.com is probably your best bet. They've got fantastic search tools. You can put in whatever brand of camera you're looking for and it will show you their entire stock. They've got experts deciding on the condition of these cameras. You know that if it's going to be a bargain, if it's going to be functional, if there's any issues with it, that's all clearly listed. And then if you do decide to buy something and you're still not happy with it, they have a very generous 21-day return policy. And some of those old school Zenit SLRs, they can get fairly unreliable after this much time, but I checked, they don't have one. But if Cage.com did have a Zenit SLR, I would know that it went through a 10-point inspection process and it would have an extended warranty. So if you were looking for something in a marketplace, La Serena is a great place to come. But if you're looking for something online that has a warranty and a return policy, we recommend Cage.com. That's why they're Petapixel's official pre-owned camera gear partner. So of course I'm going to visit Chile. I'm going to come to a Japanese garden because if we drive to Lethbridge, we go to the Japanese garden. If we fly to San Jose, we seem to go to the Japanese garden a lot. We go to Portland, we go to that Japanese garden because it's world class. And now La Serena Jardin Japonés. So enjoy. Always Japanese gardens. Never enough. So Panasonic already have a professional f2.8 general purpose zoom. It's their S-Series 24-70 f2.8. And remember that the S-Series does denote Panasonic's professional line of lenses. So this is indeed also an S-Series. Why does this exist if we already have a 24-70? Well, we're giving up 10 millimeters of the telephoto range, but what you first notice immediately is how much smaller and more compact this lens is. This is only 544 grams. I mean, that's a quarter of a Noct. It's very lightweight, easy to carry, and it's actually physically quite compact as well. I mean, comes with a plastic hood here that clips into place, but you can see if I take that off, it really doesn't extend off the body that much. 77 millimeter filter threads. The manual focus ring is pretty loosey-goosey, but that's okay. The zoom is nice. What we are giving up though that is interesting is we don't have the push-pull manual focus clutch that you have on the 24-70. And that is a really useful feature, especially for videographers, but for photographers relying on autofocus, maybe not a big deal. What we do also have here is an autofocus manual focus selector switch and a custom button, and this is fully weather sealed. So we happen to be in La Serena on a quiet Sunday. Of course, everything shuts down early. So we have the whole city to ourselves to explore here. And I don't have much to autofocus on, but if I did, I would tell you that this Panasonic 24-60 actually does a really nice job autofocusing. Dual linear motors, driving the elements quickly and quietly. So at least from a, can I handle professional photography with this lens, fast action and movement? Absolutely you can. So of course you want a versatile travel lens. You want something that actually do the occasional close-up as well. And again, this is is not a macro lens by any stretch, but I can do 1 to 3 life-size reproduction, not bad. I can always crop a little bit tighter after that. And I'm getting that at 60 millimeters, so it gives me a little bit more working distance. I'm about roughly 7.5 inches away from the sensor plane, and I could do the occasional nice little close-up. Now this lens does not have image stabilization built into the lens, but so many Panasonic bodies have good solid IBIS built into them. So one thing that I've noticed about La Serena is there's always fog here, foggy in the morning, foggy at night, foggy in the afternoon, but we have a rare break in the clouds, bright sunlight. So why don't we talk about flare while we have this opportunity? So Panasonic coatings are always good. I mean, again, you can see there's really no loss of contrast. We're not getting a lot of washed out areas, but there is some ghosting. Even at f2.8, you'll notice it a little bit. It's not terrible, it's not distracting, but it's there. And the more that you stop down, the more that you're gonna get. The Sunstars, I know nobody cares about it, but I tested it anyways. They're not great, nothing to write home about, fairly bland, broad tines, it's not really well defined, and that's because it actually has a really round aperture, which should be good for bokeh. So the 24-60 seems to be performing admirably considering that's a fairly low-cost lens, especially compared to the 24-70. I'm giving up that 10 millimeters at the long end, but are there any other compromises? Well, the main one that I'm seeing is when it comes to bokeh. So first off, looking at specular highlights, they're pretty busy. They got a very strong soap bubble effect. I even see onion rings in here, and this isn't something I really noticed on the 24-70 f2.8. And how this is translating to the bokeh is that we're actually getting fairly harsh-looking backgrounds. And considering that a 24-60 f2.8 I would probably use for portraits at 2.8 or 4 a lot, I am going to get those shallow backgrounds, and they tend to look a little bit distracting. Transitions are okay. I mean, it's not terrible, but I can definitely see a difference in quality between this and the more expensive 24-70 2.8. So Panasonic is famous for making hybrid cameras that are excellent for both photography, but especially for videography. And that means they prioritize things a little bit differently. And one of the things they really try to correct in their lenses is breathing. And that's where you get your field of view changing as you manually focus from near to far. And that could be a real problem if you're doing video focus pulls and things like that. For photography, not as big a concern usually. Now the 24-70 f2.8 corrects breathing very well. I mean, there's almost none, no matter what range you are in your lens. However, I wanted to know, what about the 24-60? Is the priority the same? The answer is mostly yes, actually. I was surprised. So at 60 millimeters, there's still almost no lens breathing. It really does a great job of correcting it. It's very minor. At 24 millimeters, you can see some breathing here. It's still what I would call quite minor. I mean, if you really think about other brands, this 24-60 is still doing a way better job. Okay, so professional lens needs to be sharp, right? Well, let's take a look at our test charts and see if we've got that here. So first 24 millimeters, looking in the center, shooting at f2.8, lots of detail, very good sharpness. I have no issues here. Stopping down the lens is gonna make it scientifically better, but it's not really noticeable. The corners at 24 millimeters here, pretty good. You gotta focus on them specifically, but at f2.8, you can see the extremes are still getting a little bit soft. So stopping the lens down to f5.6 certainly helps there. It's a very similar story at 60 millimeters here. So center, again, fantastic sharpness. Stopping down the lens, again, I didn't notice much benefit. The corners at 60, again, also do need some help. At f2.8, a little bit of softness, but that does largely go away when you stop the lens down. That gives you professional sharpness, even though it's more compact and affordable. All right, so let me give you my final thoughts on using this lens here. So first off, like the 24-60 focal range is pretty unique compared to the 24-70. You don't see that very often. And I mean, we're not talking a big difference. I mean, there are times where I felt I wanted more reach, but honestly, I don't think 70 millimeters would have given me that reach. I mean, there were times where I really wanted to reach for a 24-105 for that versatility. What is interesting here is that I'm still getting a pretty usable range, a nice wide angle coverage, and at the same time, this is very compact and very lightweight, which is fantastic when you are traveling and you just want to keep things compact. Remember that if you were gonna bring along a lens that started at 70 millimeters, like a 70-200 or 70-300, that's still going to work really nicely with this lens. You're not going to miss what's in between. So in that regard, this is pretty impressive, especially considering that the optical performance, for the most part, is actually very impressive as well. I would happily consider this a professional lens capable of doing professional work. I just wish the bokeh was a little bit nicer. So all those things being considered, what are other options? Well, you can still go to the more expensive 24-70 f2.8 L-mount lens from Panasonic. It is substantially bigger and larger, even though we're letting in the same amount of light, but you do get things like that manual focus clutch, which you might really want, and even better breathing control. That 24-70 is also substantially more expensive. So another option that might be good, if you want to have a lens that gives you better bokeh, gives you that 70mm reach and the same 2.8 aperture, look at the Sigma Art series. That's not much more money. It's fantastic value for the dollar. All that being said, I think we do have to just stop and pause and consider the fact that this 24-60 f2.8 is doing all of what it's doing for like $900 right now. That's very impressive. It's still hundreds of dollars less than the Sigma, way less than the Panasonic 24-70 f2.8. I don't exactly know how they're getting the value that good, but that's what really blew us away when we first were revealed this lens. So leave your comments below. We always appreciate that feedback. We like to talk about a lot of your questions and comments on the podcast, which actually we just did right back there in that couch at the same hotel. So you should definitely check out the podcast and get some more context there. As well, you know, the reason why we're here in Chile in the first place, this is a project that we paid for to come down here. And in order to do that, it was all because of your contributions through your petapixel.com memberships. So that support really does matter, and we'd absolutely love for you guys to check that out. But that makes all of this possible, so we really appreciate it. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon with more on Petapixel.